All right, I am going to start up. What I mentioned to you last time was that I was going to go over the way that I did this first assignment for you, kind of show you my pages. Should be able to do this in somewhere around a half an hour. So I'm going to show you two iterations of this. In the first iteration, I did everything in the assignment. Okay. In the second iteration, since I used a template from freehtml5templates.com, every one of those pages had the same header and the same footer. So I pulled the header out, put it into a header.html file, pulled the footer out, put it in a footer.html file, changed all my HTML files, the name of them, all of them, to .phps, and put it under XAMPP without making any other changes, and it works just fine. All right? So, taking it from the top, I'll open all these up, and I'll come back in here and I'll open up all of these. All right, so like I said, just taking it from the top here. I guess I had a bunch of them open already, but that's fine. All right, there's the index. Okay, so again, what I'm telling you is these 37 lines up through the end of my nav are the same on all 5 of the pages. All right, so I ended up pulling those out and putting them into their own file. These last, starting with line 132 and going down to line 173, so about 40 lines are the same on all pages. All right, so for every one of those pages, I ended up pulling that stuff out. Now the index, and again, just to show you real quick, I'll run it for you so you can see what it looks like. It's not nearly as nice as some of yours. I was very impressed with the work that a lot of you did. Zana liked the way you floated the image in and made it slide down, etc. I mean, there were a lot of nice things that were done like that. A lot of people really went to town on the PHP and did some really good work on it too. So, but like I said, mine doesn't have that much in it. So there's the home page. There's the about page. The HTML validation, and I want to show you this. You may or may not be aware of this, and if you are, okay. But if you're not, there is a field that you can add in HTML5 that's called title. And if you add that title field and you use an onChange event, let me just show you. You're used to right here, if I don't put anything in here, it'll say, you know, this field required or whatever, and it still does, but watch what else it says. All right, please fill out this field, and then it has my own message in there. All right. What I did on this, I mean, maybe I'm lazy, I don't know, but the way I set it up was the BTC ID number had to start with 3 zeros and then have any 6 digits after it. That's how I set mine up. You didn't have to do that. If you only made it 9 digits, that's fine. For the first name, the last name, the address, and the city, you just had to put something in there. Period. Something. For the zip code, it had to be, you know, either 5 digits or 5 digits hyphen 4 digits. The email had to be valid, and the phone number had to be 3 digits hyphen 3 digits hyphen 4 digits, or it had to be in parens 3 digits space 3 digits hyphen 4 digits. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, so for all of these, you'll notice that if I do start filling this stuff in here, all right, so now with that there, with a valid field, now it just comes up and it says, please fill out this field. So it'll do that all the way down. All right, so I'm down to there. So now it says, please fill out this field again, and it shows you the format. And if I put in number, cool, it goes to the next field. But now if I goof that up, all right, now it comes back to that message. Does all that make sense? All right, so again, hopefully that's pretty simple when you take a look at it to figure out what's going on there. Email. And then finally, all right, phone number. And once everything is okay, boom. Okay? So the code that I put in there to handle the HTML5 validation. And I've got way too many things open here. Okay, I got to close some of these. I want to open up the right one for you. So all the code to do this with the HTML5 is all in here. This is what I showed you before. That's the title field. And if you say on change, that's basically what added that. And how did I find that out? I just looked online. I didn't even know that existed. There are different ways that you can change the default text. All right, I picked one of the easier ways. For each one of these, I set up a type, a class, a name, an ID, a placeholder, and for those 4 fields, a pattern and a required. So I did that for all of these. By now, that should be simple enough that I would think at least everyone in this room could do that without any problem. All right, any questions on the HTML5 part? All right, then let's jump to the next one. I don't need the about page. I don't need the index page. So I'm going to jump right to the JavaScript page, and I'll run that one. And you'll notice that when I run that and I click, again, ID number is required. But if I put in garbage or whatever, it comes back and it says field must be in that kind of format. So again, if I put in I think that's the right number of digits. Yep. Then it jumps down to the next field. All right. And again, that's just a required field. So jumps down to the next field. All right. Then jumps down to the next field. And the next one. And then we get down to the zip code. So you see at zip code, if I put in garbage, it tells you the format that it must be in. All right, so again, it will accept it either as, so notice it accepted that, or as, but if I make a mistake and put one too many digits after that, jumps back up again. Does all that make sense? All right. And then for the email, again, has to be a valid email. And then finally, for the phone number, it has to be in the right format. And then that validates. Whoops. Well, I don't know what's wrong with that. I'll have to check that. Let's see if it takes the other one. It did. All right, so I've got a problem with my pattern. Just so you know, this orange thing that's right here, I decided to get cute and put little icons in. But that orange that's coming in here is coming from those icons. And there's a way to get rid of it. I just haven't figured it out yet. All right, so looking at the code for the JavaScript form validation. What I did was I said, okay, let's take a look at this and figure out what we have to do. So every field that's here is required. The ID one, I had to do this. The address, I was going to make it letters, numbers, blanks only. I just said the hell with it. So the ID number, I made this format. The zip code was this format. The email had to be valid, and the phone number had to be valid, all right, in that format. So what I did here was I said, well, first, let's come in and let's set up the patterns I wanted to use for these checks. These I just made up. And I could have made this as one check. In fact, I did that in the Jquery one that you're going to see soon. But here I made it as 2 different checks. This one just says 5 digits. This one says 5 digits hyphen 4 digits. Then I went to the regexlive.com. There are so many darn email regular expression patterns out there. There are a lot of them. But I just used this one because that's the one they used. Same thing with the phone pattern. I broke it up into 2 patterns. Did I have to do that? No. Okay? All right. Then on here, and I didn't really test this on most people's. I was just happy people turned stuff in. All right? But you all should have done this if you use the document.getElementById. You really should have trimmed to remove any leading or trailing spaces. All right, because sometimes, depending, for example, in the way I set mine up with the first name, last name, address, and city, there just had to be something in there. If I left that dot trim out, I could have just hit the space bar and it would have accepted them. I didn't like that. So I put a dot trim in there, and that's why that was done. Then I just made some generic error messages. I wanted all of them to look the same. So in other words, it'll say like, BTC ID number field is required. First name field is required, etc. So I just put that in there basically as a variable so I could put that in every time so they all look the same. Then for the valid, I put the format for these fields so that if somebody ran it and made a mistake, they'd know what it should be. All right? And especially for the first year people, because again, they had the same assignment as you, except to not do the PHP part. But if you look in here, what I did right here, and it's commented out now. But after I set that up, I wanted to make sure it worked. So I just did an alert that printed out all my values to make sure that things were being set okay. I have watched some people, because I can see machines, some of the machines in here, and I've watched people go in and type for an hour and never once run their program to see whether or not it works. And they might have put up to 100 or 200 lines in there. Then they start testing. This way I put in, and actually what I did was I put in these patterns and this, so I put in those lines. Now look, you say, well, yeah, you put in almost 100 lines. Yeah, 80. But notice that the first 55 almost are comments. So I put in here about 25 lines, approximately, in here. Then I tested to make sure those 25 worked. All right. Then I did these one at a time. I literally did them a field at a time. Now I can check for the ID number being 0 because I trimmed. And if it's 0, this is going to say BTC ID number field is required. All right. Then I did the test operation. I said, use that pattern, the pattern right here, 3 digits, or 3 zeros and 6 digits. So use that pattern and test the ID number. If the test does not match, then say, all right, ID valid, which said it has to be in this format. All right. And if neither one of those happened, it was okay. It was valid. So I wrote nothing. Where did I write nothing to? Well, if you look here, after each one of these fields, I added a span. Many people did it this way. So I set up a span with just a class, and that class is error. Remember how I said everyone was supposed to be bolded and red? That's all that's in class error. Color red, font weight bold. That's it. So each one of these has got their own span statement. Okay? And then after that, I did the same thing. This one was easy. The first name, last name, address, and city all look just like this one, except the name is changed. This says if there's nothing in there, say, for example, first name is required, or field is required. Otherwise, write nothing to that span. Then do the same thing for the last name. Again, if there's nothing in there, last name field is required. Otherwise, write nothing. Then do the same thing with the address. If it's empty, address field is required. Otherwise, write nothing. And for the city, same thing. There's nothing there. City field is required. Otherwise, write nothing. Then we got to the zip code. Remember, when I did the zip code, I created 2 patterns. One pattern that just had number, and one pattern that had number, dash, number. Okay? So if that field was empty, it should come back and say zip code field is required. If there's something in there, I check to see if it's either this pattern or if it's this pattern. And if it's neither one of those patterns, then you say that the zip code field must be in that format, either number, or number, dash, number. Okay? And if that's not the case, then it passed. So I write nothing. Then we've got the email, which again, if it's empty, we write email field is required. Otherwise, we test that email pattern that I showed you before against the email. If the test fails, we say email must be properly written or properly formed. Otherwise, we write nothing. And then finally, the phone, which is done a lot like the zip code is. If the phone is empty, phone number field is required. Otherwise, we check that first pattern, number, dash, number, dash, number, or that second pattern, which is the same except that the first 3 digits are inside a parens. If both those checks failed, then we tell them what the format must be. All right? And you notice with all these, if the if is true, or if the else if is true, we return false because we don't want to go on anymore. All right? Any questions about that one? All right, then let's look at the Jquery. Don't need any of that. Don't need any of that or that. Just to show you, there's my error down at the bottom in gray. Color red, font weight bold. That was it. All right, so let me open up this, and let me open up this. Here's the Jquery one. Again, first 37 lines are the same. All right. Took out everything but type, class, name, ID, and placeholder for all these. That's all I put in there. All right. And what we want to do with this form is when we submit it, we want to call a validate routine. Thank you, Zane. I did pretty much rip off yours right here and got it to work. But what we had to do here was we had to set up rules, and based on those rules, we had to set up messages. So what are the rules? ID number is required, and the regular expression pattern looks like this. The first name is required, the last name is required, the city is required, the zip code is required. Is everybody cool with the syntax like you see up on the screen right here in gray? This starts a pattern, all right, with the caret. This ends the pattern with a $sign. So this says 5 digits or 5 digits hyphen 4 digits. There are a multiple number of ways that you can write a regular expression pattern. All right. The phone, I used the same one. The email rather, I used the same one that I showed you before that I grabbed from that regular expression library. And here's the phone in the same way. 3 digits hyphen 3 digits hyphen 4 digits. Or parenthesis 3 digits, parenthesis space 3 digits hyphen 4 digits. All right. And for each one of these rules you should come up with what? A message. So required field, I said the same thing every time. Required field, hyphen, then the name of the field. Then this goes and it checks the format to make sure it's okay. For first name, last name, and city, required field, required field, required field. That's it. And address. The zip, again, required. And if the regular expression fails, print out that message. Phone, required. And if the regular expression fails, print out that message. Email, required. And if the regular expression fails, print out that message. So when you look at this, if I click right away on submit, I get it for everything. Does that make sense? Required field and then the name of the field. So notice if I come in here and I start typing in something and I get off the field. Now it tells me the format it must be in. All right, and as soon as I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that goes away. But as soon as I add another number, it comes back again. It's formatting it and it's validating it on the fly. Okay, so that one's okay. This one, again, all there has to be is something there, something there, something there, and something there. All All right, so that fixes those. For the state, again, it didn't really matter. I didn't really care that much. But notice in here, required field. As soon as I put in something that's out of whack, that's not a number, it immediately validates it and says, no, it must be in one of these two formats. So number, that goes away. But if I add another number, now I broke the pattern. It's neither one of those. But if I put in a hyphen, number, now it goes away. But if I add a number or if I remove a number, it comes back again. The email just had to be syntactically correct. And the phone number again, parenthesis. Okay, I can do it like that, but if I put in one too many digits, it tells me. Now it says that it's okay. Same kind of thing here. There's no 608, and notice there's no dash in between. Now it goes away. Does all that make sense? All right. And then lastly, the only other thing I wanted to mention to you about this was, again, what I did then was I went into XAMPP, and I've got to start up XAMPP to show, I guess it is going, to show you this. And under my XAMPP, htdocs, I've got a folder in there. I think I used the working one. All right, this is the same stuff I just showed you, except now I've got an includes folder, and that includes folder has the header and footer info. There's the header info, which was those first 37 lines or whatever it is. I guess that's footer. It was the first 37 lines, and then there's the footer, which were the last 40 or so lines. So for each one of these now, what did I have to change? This should make sense to all of you. In these files right here, all right, I had to put an include at the top of each one for the header. I had to put an include at the bottom of each one for the footer. And in my header and footer, which I conveniently closed. In fact, really in the header, I had to go back in, and all of these previously said .html files. I had to change them to .php. All right? And once I did that, now if I go back again to my index.php file and run it, not that one, I got, not from there. There's the program. All right, there's the site. There's the about page. There's the HTML5 validation, the same way it worked before. There's the JavaScript validation, the same way that it worked before. And there's the Jquery validation, the same way that it worked before. Does all that make sense? All right, because part of your next assignment, I'm going to ask you to do that. I'm going to ask you to basically take all these pages and make them into PHP pages. Any question on anything I've gone over? And please, if you're that behind, I asked John yesterday. I considered him to be, at least as far as I could tell, impartial. And I said, am I giving out too much homework? He said, not in my opinion. All right. You may or may not feel that way. But if you have not yet turned in the first assignment, you better turn it in pretty quick. It's not a threat. I just don't want to fail anybody. That's all. All right. Any questions on anything? So next week in this class, on Tuesday, I'm going to go over chapters 16 and 17, which is our beginning of going into the Jquery user interface, Jquery UI. And then, so 16, 17 on Tuesday, Thursday, 18 and 19. If you don't know this already, not next week, but the following week is break. So we're going to go over those two things. I'll probably give you your next assignment. It won't be due till somewhere around the end of April. That'll be the last assignment that you'll get. All right, we'll go over some Angular stuff, but I'm not going to give you any homework on that. And next week in iOS and in Android, we're going to talk databases, persistent storage, etc. All right? If there aren't any questions, that's all that I had.